Providing insights to help you grow your business, improve yourself, and add value to those around you. You're listening to the Success is a Choice podcast, where you get a peek into the lives of industry leaders as they share their stories with you.
Hey, welcome everybody to the Success is a Choice podcasting network in our Coachable Coach series. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler. And as usual, I want to let everybody know and remind everybody that today's episode is made possible by the leadershipplaybook.com. We all want strong and healthy cultures. The best way to have a good culture is by having a great teammates and positive leaders. And that's where the leadershipplaybook.com can help you out. In fact, you'll get 25% off the price when you use coupon code CHOICE, as in success is a choice. So whether you're a coach, administrator, parent, or student athlete, you'll want to visit the leadershipplaybook.com and use coupon code CHOICE. Well, once again, thanks everybody for joining us on the Coachable Coach series. This is where we bring in a coach that knows that it's more than just about the X's and O's. It's more than just the tactics and strategies. Those are great things. Those are the things that we need, but there's more to coaching than just that. And so today's coach is Lars Jorgensen. He is the head swim coach at the University of Kentucky. And so he has previously been at the University of Toledo as a head coach. He was at LSU as an assistant coach. And now he's at Kentucky, and he's totally taken over. And in the 10 years you've been there, you've kind of transformed the program, coach. And 2021 SEC champion, 2021 SEC coach of the year. You've been in the top 25 every year you've been there, kind of turned the program around. And you were also a great swimmer yourself at the University of Tennessee, and you were an Olympian at the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games. So you know a little something about what it means to be a high-level athlete and a high-level coach. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, kind of intimidating a little bit to go down your resume and to introduce you. I mean, you've done so much stuff, both as a competitor yourself, but also as a coach. And obviously, you know, when we start looking at resumes, when we start going over things, you know, it's like, oh, this milestone, this accomplishment, this achievement, this record, this success, like things that we can measure. But I'm guessing that you have put a little bit more stock in the journey, in the process, as opposed to the end outcome or the end result. What's your definition of success?
Yeah, 100%. You got to fall in love with the preparation and the work ethic that's required. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, no matter what you're doing, fall in love with the process. The winning the championship is just kind of the end all, right? But the process is what really where you improve and get better. So, I mean, success to me is, a couple things. Number one is, simply be the best version of yourself. If you're doing that, you're successful. Work hard, pay attention, be a great teammate. I don't think there's a better compliment I can give somebody than, so-and-so is a great teammate. I think that's really important, right? Number two is to, do something positive on your team and contribute to something is success. It could be within your own family, right? Your business, your team and stuff like that. And be a servant leader. Maybe that term is used a little bit too much, but you got to serve the heart of that person. I think that's one of the keys to leadership. And then the third aspect is just trying to give back, have an impact on the people on your team, your family, the people in the community. If you do those three things, serve people, you give back, make a difference in somebody's life, and be the best version of yourself, I think that's awesome. And to me, that's success. Success is not winning just a gold medal or championship. Success is about the process of being the best you can be. And that's an everyday thing, right? So worry less about getting to the top of the mountain, winning a gold medal, winning a championship. If you focus on the process and falling in love with the preparation, hopefully the winning will take care of itself. But if you don't do the other stuff first and your goal is just to win, success, number one, how much money you can make, I think that, you're going down the wrong path.
Well, obviously you have to be competent as a coach. You have to know what types of training strategies are best. And when you're going to get in the pool, you've got to have a plan, obviously. But you mentioned there trying to get your athletes to be great teammates. You mentioned getting them to be the best version of themselves, or you getting to be the best version of yourself. What are some, taking us away from, what you actually do X's and O's wise or strategy wise once they get in the pool, but how do you get them to be the best versions of themselves? How do you get them to be great teammates when maybe all they think about is, well, I've got to increase this time?
Yeah, correct. In my opinion, and some coaches would probably disagree with me, but the strategy or X's and O's is not as important as building the right people and the right team. So it starts really on a daily basis. It's the little things that you do within practice or the standards that you have that we all have to agree to. I think that's important. So we don't have a ton of rules. We have standards and the way that we will operate and do things. And that's a little bit within the X's and O's. But again, you can spend as a coach, a leader of your company, all day and just trying to build culture and maintain culture. Forget about the X's and O's. If you could be extremely smart and brilliant in the X's and O's, but if you don't have the right people on the team, doing the right things, it's going to be fruitless,
So what are some things, when you go out recruiting, you're at the University of Kentucky, SEC, it's important that you bring in talented athletes,
Sure.
No matter how great of a coach you are, if you've got people that can't swim, you're not going to do well. But it's more than probably just looking at a timesheet. What are some identifiers you have? Like when you're looking at people, all right, I want this person to be a part of our program because they'll make us better, not just with their times, but in the locker room, on the team bus, on the charter planes, or whatever. What are some of the things you're looking for when you're recruiting or looking for with these people that you talk about?
Number one, in our case, I want them to be a good student, right? I think they have to be competent in the classroom. That doesn't mean you have to have, 1,500 SAT or a 4.0 or anything like that. But you got to be competent in the classroom because then you can't dedicate as much time to your sport because you're worrying so much about academics. So you got to be competent in the classroom, a person of high character. I love going to meets. And then occasionally you'll see this kid who doesn't, could be guy or girl, whatever, doesn't get a best time, right? And they rip off their cap and they throw it in, or they're yelling at, a teammate or a coach. Like if that's how they behave during a competition, they're probably not a great teammate, right? So, little things like that. Are they a team captain of their high school? If we go evaluate them at practice, are they leading like their lane? In swimming, we have all these different lanes, right? Or generally the best swimmers are leading the lanes. Or are you in the back of the pack and you're just kind of going through the motions? Some of those things, interactions with their parents, I think that's important, right? How they treat their parents and in the way that their teammates view them as a leader. So yeah, you got to have enough skill and talent to compete in the SEC. But if you don't have the character piece and the academic piece, it's going to be a struggle, right? And so, I always tell our team about this, like the NFL draft, as you know, right? Or the NBA, you coach many years of basketball and stuff like that. It's not always the number one pick that ends up being the best player in the draft. Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, right? That was a big discussion in the 90s. Who was going to be better? Ryan Leaf was the better athlete, right? Could throw the ball better, but Obviously, Peyton Manning had the leadership skills and the character that allowed him to be one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the National Football League. Or Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick, right? So there's plenty of examples of that. But I think it goes back to your character and your will and your desire. How good do you want to be at the next level that we're kind of looking for. At Kentucky, we don't typically can recruit in our sport at the same level that perhaps a Stanford can. They're very good school academically and stuff like that. So we got to try to find the right people for Kentucky, and I think that's important part of the recruiting process, finding the right people.
We've talked about great teammates getting, and we talk all the time, great teams have great teammates, but you're talking about trying to get your athletes to be great teammates. Now, maybe there's a football coach or a basketball coach or someone else listening to this is like, wait a minute, this is swimming,
Yes.
just swim faster and
Yes.
you're a great teammate because then your time is better. Educate us a little bit about why it even matters in swimming to have great teammates.
That's a great question, because there is this misconception that swimming is a very individualist sport. I think it can be at times if you're just training to go to the Olympics and being a gold medal, and it's a little bit more about you and your process. But at the college level, it's much more about the team. And so your success is based on how well you practice primarily, right? There's some talent and some other equations, but based on your practice habits, right? And the better culture you have, the better team you have, that's going to elevate the standards in practice and the way we do things. And so that's the how team is really important in swimming. When you get behind the blocks, yeah, it's up to you to perform, right? Your team can't help you. I can't help you, right? But we can help you in practice. And the better you are at practice, the better you'll be at a meet most of the time.
Is there some truth to like when you're putting together a relay?
Yes.
Finding the right people that maybe fit to that, or just finding the 4 fastest people at the breaststroke or the freestyle or the butterfly. Is it a combination?
Yeah, sometimes it's a combination. Obviously, you have to pick your 4 fastest, right? That's pretty obvious. But there are people that historically are better relay swimmers, right? So they're like in the 100 freestyle, on a relay, they drop over a second historically on a relay performance, right? So there are people like that. And so if it's really close between, selecting 2 people, I will tend to go with the person who's historically has performed really well on relays. So things like that, but generally it's the top 4. But again, within that, we often have these things called A relays. That's our A team, the best 4. Then we have a B team, right? And that's the next 4 within that relay, depending on there's various relays that you can do, right? And so one of our goals is for the people in the B relay to beat some of the people in the A relay. So one day that they can be in the A relay. And so always trying to build like competition within that. Competition makes everybody better, as you know, right? And so the competing in practice in a positive way, not in a negative way, elevates everybody's performance. And I think that's important, right? Negative competition because can be all you're trying to do is outmuster the other person. You're bringing that competition into the locker room or back to the dorm room or your house and stuff like that. Healthy competition is trying to elevate one another, right? And I think that's what's really critical. And you leave it at the pool. Like we're done 2-hour practice. That's it. You're not competing anymore. You're going to be a teammate. You're going to worry about academics. Have somewhat of a social life if you can, right? And stuff like that. So I want it to be highly competitive within that 2 hours, but I hope that they can leave it and not think about it, for 20 hours.
Well, we mentioned that you kind of turned the program around and you've been very successful in the decade you've been there. Are there how are you a better coach today than maybe you were when you took over at Kentucky? You were a head coach previously as well at the Division I level, but have there been some mistakes you've made along the way, or how have you kind of gotten better in the last decade?
Yeah, I think I've just become a better student of the sport and just general leadership, right? Enjoy following you and getting to know you, and I think you're a fantastic leader in some of the programs that you do. So, like things like that. About a year ago, I had an opportunity to spend some time with Dabo Sweeney, and down in Clemson for a couple hours, and learned so much from him. Again, football, what does it have to do with swimming? Absolutely nothing. But he's a great leader of people. And I learned a lot from him. And we sat down. He was gracious enough to give us a couple hours of his time. And in fact, about 6 months before that, he met with our entire team over Zoom for about an hour. And that was during the football season too. So it tells you what kind of person that guy is. He's in the middle of the football season, and he's spending an hour with the University of Kentucky swim team. I couldn't believe it. So, he's just a really, really good guy, servant leader. So learning from people like yourself and Dabo Sweeney and other coaches and coaches within our sport. I read a ton of books. I watch stuff on YouTube, right? So always trying to get better. I think if I know everything, then I should be done coaching. I don't know everything. I'm a work in progress. I think we all are, but you got to learn and keep trying to get better. So I try to be better all the time.
So trying to get better all the time. That's one of the things of this series, the Coachable Coach, being coachable. Yep. A lot of coaches aren't coachable. We want our athletes to be coachable. We want our athletes to improve and develop, but then we're not able to step back and kind of improve ourselves as well. Are there ways that you're helping your athletes, though, to be more coachable? Are there what are some maybe strategies that you use or tips that you can give us for when you're dealing with an athlete and we all deal with athletes that struggle mentally. And I'm not talking mental illness right now, but just mentally with their performance, maybe anxiety or whatever. Sure. And in swimming, it's probably elevated because it is so individual. Are there some things that you do to really help your athletes to grow, develop outside of just the tactics and the strategies and in your training sessions, but are there ways that you're helping build their confidence, helping them see, hey, I can be more coachable, or I can learn, or I can achieve my potential?
Yeah, I think the great ones want to be coached, right? And they want to be told the truth. And I'm sure that's the case with some of the great basketball players that you've coached, right? So what we try to be really honest in terms of our feedback with athletes. And so hopefully they understand that we're just trying to make them a better athlete. If they trust you and they trust the process, then they're open to coaching. And again, trying to do that in a positive manner, right? I think that's important. So you can be critical of something they do, but I don't think you should ever be critical of the person. And that's a big separator, right? Say you could do better. You didn't give 100%. But you still have to love that person. They're on your team. So I think that's really important. Get them the belief, believe in themselves. I think that's hard, but you're right. The mental approach in any sport, could be golf or tennis, right? Get them to believe what they can do. And so that's a daily basis. It's not like one, seminar with, somebody on our campus speaking to our team. It's a daily thing. And I think that's really the key to leadership, right? I think we can have various injections within our program. We have guest speakers and various things like that come in and talk to our team, right? But what's most important is just the daily stuff. What are you doing to lead your team on a daily basis? And you can have some injection again, that can be really positive about your team, but it's the daily habits that you have on your team. And what are some of the things that are just really non-negotiable as a coach, right? There are some things that you can put up with perhaps, or, you give people a second or third chance. I think that's fine. But you also have to have some things that are just, these are hardline things. This is the way we're going to operate our program. And I think if you have these standards, right, and then you can also get people to believe in the process, and their individual contribution to the team, I think, is really critical. People will view success if they're contributing, right? If they're not contributing, that's when they feel like, I'm not getting the most out of it. So like within that, we have this thing called R&Rs, which is roles and responsibilities. And every single person on the team has a role and has a responsibility. I think that's how you build culture and team, right? If you don't know what your role is, then why are you on our team, right? And so within that, you have certain responsibilities, right? Not everybody can be the best swimmer. Not everybody can be a superstar. Not everybody can win a gold medal, but everybody can have a role and everybody can have a responsibility, and they understand that role. Hopefully they embrace that role, and that makes the team operate. But the role can also change, right? So like maybe as you're a walk-on freshman, you improve and your role is really small. Then you become a scholarship athlete. Maybe your sophomore year or junior year, then you qualify for the NC2A. So it's always evolving and growing. Like your role is not necessarily stagnant, right? Hopefully it will grow and change through your 4 years.
So maybe there's a young swim coach out there, or a young basketball coach, young baseball coach, or whatever. They're just starting off in whether it's high school or college, they're starting off in whatever their profession is going to be. What if you could get in the Back to the Future DeLorean or the Wayback Machine and go back in time and tell a young Lars Jorgensen just starting off in coaching, what would be some things that you would tell a young Lars or those younger people listening to this today?
Be yourself, be genuine. I see a lot of young coaches that are always trying to copy somebody. I think you learn from mentors, yes, and from books and various things like that. But copying somebody doesn't work. You have to be very genuine with what you are in the system that you want to run or the standards, right? So again, I learn from a variety of people on a daily basis, but it has to be like my own program, my own beliefs, and try to be very genuine with leadership. And so learn and grow, but you have to be genuine. So what I see with young coaches sometimes are like, oh, that looks cool. I saw that on Instagram, whatever, on Twitter, whatever. And so they're just going to incorporate that in the practice, which is fine occasionally, right? Like you can mix it up, but I think it has to fall within, the framework of what you believe within your program, right? And so just be genuine, learn and grow, but, be you and don't copy. And I think that's important,
Very cool. You've mentioned a couple times daily. It's a daily thing. It's a daily, fighting for your culture, a daily habits that you're forming. Is there anything that you do that's intentional to remind yourself daily when you go out there and coach or help your staff to daily fight this battle for your culture, so to speak? Are there any intentional things that you do?
Yeah, every single day before start of practice, I try to have a message, something really quick. Could be some reminders. Okay, we got 2 more weeks left in school. Let's finish the academic semester off on a really good note. Little things like that, right? To create a purpose around what we're doing at practice. I don't want to just practice. There has to be something that we're shooting for. Now we're going into our summer season, and it's not the college season, but how well you do in the summer, helps your progress in the fall and our team success, right? And so there's a purpose of what we're doing in practice right now and what you're doing in the summer. That's kind of where you get better. But every single day when you're in front of your team, it could be a basketball coach, it doesn't matter. That is an opportunity for you to build culture. And even if your message is like 1 or 2 minutes long, fine. You don't need to give some motivational speech every single day. This is the way we're going to operate. This is what we're doing. This is the purpose of the practice. I think that's really critical. And that's something that has changed in the last 10 years, right? It used to be the coach was very authoritative, right? And we're going to do this because of this, right? I think the kids these days work just as hard as we did. Maybe even harder, right? I think they have more challenges with social media and things like that, but they work really hard. And so, but you have to provide a purpose of why we're doing this. And I think back in the day, I just did it because my coach told me to do it, or your parents, right? But I think purpose is really important. Why we're here, why do we exist, and how do we continue to move forward? I think those are essentials. Take 2 minutes out of your practice before basketball or whatever you're doing, before a board meeting, right? In a business environment, okay? What is our purpose? What we're trying to do here? Remind them constantly about the culture and the expectations, because they forget, right? There's this really good guy that he's a consulting friend that I know, and he was working with a football coach in the SEC. This was a few years ago, right? And he asked the head coach of the program, I won't say his name, but, describe your culture. And he has 2 words that describe his culture. Right. And so he interviewed about 50 people that touch the program, not the players, but weight coaches, nutritionists, secretaries, assistant coach, director of operations, GAs, and various things like that. And he decided there's about 50 people recruit meets that have, access to the program. Right. He asked them to describe each of those 50 people what your culture is. Right. And nobody knew the answer. So he went back and reported it to the head coach. He goes, we got a problem. You know what the culture is, but the other people don't know. And it's your job as a leader to remind them what the culture is and what the purpose is. So it's daily, right? One of the things with our kids is they got so much stuff going on, academics, relationships, swimming, right? Like talk about anxiety or other stuff that's going on in their life, right? So just remind them of what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think that will go a long way in terms of developing a culture and leadership.
Well, he is Lars Jorgensen, the head swim coach at the University of Kentucky. Awesome insights today. Hey, fight for your culture daily. It's something that matters. We all sit at Waffle House or IHOP late at night, banging our head against the wall about, these kids or something going on in our program. We just can't figure it out. Well, oftentimes it's because we're not daily fighting for our culture.
And Jamie, also it always evolves and changes too, right? As soon as you think you have a great culture, then it's like, it just changes, right? So you've constantly, you could spend years trying to build your culture, and then you think you've made it, and then it takes a step back. And so that's something that I've learned too, right? Is it's not, it's always up and down, right? You want it to be like the stock market. Hopefully it continues to rise, but there's going to be some ebbs and flows with your culture. And like you said, you got to fight for it every single day. It's totally true.
Yeah, it really is. And we oftentimes want that secret sauce or that, hey, what's that one team building activity? I get that a lot when I'll go speak to coaches or, hey, what's a great team building activity? And I understand the question. And I had the same question as a coach as well. We all want good team building activities, but oftentimes your best team building activity is the fist bump you do with your athlete in the hallway for no good reason, or just the high, the smile, the way you interact with your kids. That's the best team building you can do.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, you can have some injection of stuff. That's fine. Whatever, a ropes course. I'm not saying that stuff doesn't work, but if you're doing a team building activity once a year, I mean, come on, is that really going to work? Yeah, it's nice. And we do some of that stuff too, right? But it's a daily thing. It is 100%. And it's individual meetings that you have with your athletes and sitting down and giving them honest feedback of what they can do better and increasing their role on the team, right? So it's building those relationships that are really fundamental and critical to building your team. Again, having a guest speaker come in, I love that, right? Because they hear from somebody besides me. I think that's awesome. But they're not going to be there every single day. It's about us and what we create, right? I always tell our team every day, I love and respect, University of Florida or Georgia or Tennessee. They're all great programs, right? But they don't control our culture. We do. That's all that matters.
It's a daily thing, not just that thing you did on the day. You remember that day that we did that great team building activity? Those are great. Those are great compliments to the daily stuff you're already doing, but don't just check off a box and expect your culture to be great.
Yep.
Well, you can follow him at UK Lars Jorgensen on Twitter, UK Lars Jorgensen on Twitter. And if you would kindly smash that little like button or subscribe or share this with a friend, especially a coaching friend that might want to check out this episode. If you'd be so kind, leave a little review, say, hey, that coach from Kentucky had some awesome insights. I learned a little bit more about swimming, or whatever you want to leave as a review. But we appreciate Coach Jorgensen joining us. And for all of you, until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice will you make today?